Hello and welcome to the OGHS Library channel with Mrs. Berg. I'm Mrs. Berg, and today we're going to be talking about how to write a resume, and I'm going to be going over some tips and tricks to make writing your resume seamless. So we're going to be writing our resume today using Google Docs, and the first thing that I want to talk about is the template gallery. So if you go to Docs, click on the template gallery at the top here. Now, Google Docs, if you scroll down a little bit, you're going to come to a resume section. They do have a few pretty good templates for you to use when you're starting to create your resume. So I'm going to just click on one of these templates and kind of walk you through some things with it. I'm going to choose the spearmint option. Now, a couple things to keep in mind when you're working off of any template, anywhere that you find, is that you want to keep colors black and white. So we are going to have to change a couple of things on this one. You want to make sure that your template or your resume is visually appealing, that it's easy to read at a glance, because if a potential employer, picks up your resume off a pile, they look at it and they can't see where anything is because it's so cluttered and jumbled, they're not going to take the time to sift through it. They're just going to put you directly into the no pile. The other reason that we want it to be pretty standard and easily legible is because if you apply and submit your resume online somewhere, a lot of sites, what they do is they use artificial intelligence to kind of scan the resume before it even gets sent on to your potential employer. So if the artificial intelligence is scanning your resume and you have a weird kind of layout for your resume, it's not going to be able to find what it's looking for with its basic scan. So again, you're going to go into the automatic no pile. So while we're kind of fixing this template, we want to make sure we're using minimal colors. We want to make sure that we're keeping things organized, clearly labeled, so that it's easy to read at a glance. So with all that in mind, let's kind of talk through and take a look at this template. So the first thing that we want to get rid of is all of this green. Now, what I like about these templates is, especially if we look at this experience section, I love the way that they lay out the experience for you, how they have different, yet subtly different, what's the word that I'm looking for? Fonts and colors for the different areas and aspects of your experience that you want to highlight. It's just very visually pleasing, and it's really easy to read and kind of see at a glance, because you can really pick out, okay, there's my job title, there's the years that I was working there. So as a potential employer, this looks really nice. However, the green does not. So we want to get rid of all the green. Now, I don't want to just highlight my entire document and change the font to black, because these are not black. These are a light gray color, and I want to keep them that way. So I am just going to go through, highlight each of the green sections, and I'm going to change it actually to this dark gray, just so that it's a little softer and maybe not quite as harsh as a full black. So it's very easy to do. You just go through, click, and highlight. Now, you probably notice that there is this very bold green line at the head of my my resume. And while it might look kind of cool, again, it doesn't really follow the template. So we do want to double click in the header, and it is an image, and so we don't want to keep that image. So we are just going to delete that line, is all that we need to do. And I think there is an extra space here in the header, which is going to kind of throw off our formatting as well. So we just want to make sure that we delete that also. All right, now the next thing that we want to take a look at is we want to take a look at the margins. So when you're setting up your resume, if you're trying to maximize space, because remember, we want our resume to only be one page, especially at the high school level. You don't want your resume to be more than a page, because a potential employer isn't really going to want to take the time to sift through more than what they can glance on one single page. So we want to fit all of our stuff onto one page if we can. If you've been involved in a lot and you have a lot of information that you're going to be putting on your resume, you're probably going to want to make the margins smaller on your paper. Now, just a word of caution with this: if you change the margins, you should change them all the way around the paper. So you shouldn't have, a 2-inch margin at the top and then a half-inch margin at the bottom, because why would you not just even that out? It doesn't make sense. So the way to change the margins is you go File, and I'm in the way. You go File, Page Setup, And then here is your margins and how you change it. Now, this is a really good example of what not to do because all of these margins are different sizes. The smallest margin that I would recommend you use is a 0.5. So I am going to actually use a 0.5 all the way around. And then once you have your margin set, you just hit OK, and then it'll change your margins. And you'll notice that my text did all shift over, and that just gives me a lot more room to kind of play with. Now, this is another thing that you're going to want to avoid. As I'm kind of glancing at this template now, you'll notice there's a lot of like white space here, a lot of white space here. We really don't want a ton of white space because it kind of just feels like dead space. So we want to try to fill that as much as we can, but again, not cluttering it, but filling it with pertinent, relevant information. So one of the ways that you can do that is, so for example, my experience section, right? Since I have this whole area over here, maybe instead of having just one column of experience, I want to do 2 columns of experience. The easiest way to do that in Google Docs is actually to insert a table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cursor between skills and experience, and I'm going to go insert table. And I think I'm just going to do 2 columns. So all you do is however many columns you want on the page, you just insert a table with that many boxes. So I'm just going to do a 2x1. And then what you can do is you can come down here, you can copy whatever text you want on one side of the column, just cut it, and I just hit Control X for that, and then Control V to paste. Okay, and then I can take this piece right here, Control X to cut, Control V to paste, and maybe I want another one of those, so maybe I'll insert another one right there like that. All right, now you can see it's still a little bit off. We probably want to line up these company names. There's a lot of space before this experience. So let's just kind of tighten and clean this up a little bit. To get rid of the space before experience, you just click on the word, hit the line and paragraph spacing button, and go remove space before paragraph. And that'll just kind of bump it up right along the edge of this table. And then to get the company name and location to line up, all you have to do is just enter another line. Oh, maybe not. Oh, you know why? It's because this experience has an extra space. So let's try adding a space before this line. So keep your cursor here. Again, hit the line and paragraph spacing. It does have a space before. Let's try removing it, and then we'll try jumping down and see if that works. Oh, we're so close. Okay, so you just kind of have to play around with it just a little bit. So maybe here I will actually add a space after this paragraph and then delete this other line. There we go. And now we're lined up perfectly. So you just kind of have to play around with it a little bit with the line and paragraph spacing to get it to line up, but this is looking really beautiful. The other thing that could be really easy for you to do is just put the experience title outside of the box, like right on top of it, and then the company and name locations inside. But I just like making my life harder. So there it is. Okay, now you're probably looking at this and you're like, man, this looks really gross because you can see the black lines around it. So here's how we fix that. To get rid of the black lines around your table and to just make it look like it's just 2 columns of text, all that you're going to do is you're going to right click, go to table properties. I'm going to be in the way again, so I'm going to move myself. Open this color tab on the bottom of table properties. And where it says table border and you have this black color here, you're just going to click it and change it to white. And then it'll blend in perfectly with the page. The table borders are invisible, but you still have everything organized. And then you can just kind of clean up the rest of the spacing here. So we want to get rid of, these bullet points that were left over from when we copy and pasted, backspace all of this stuff so that it's all nice and squished together. And look at that, we have a beautiful page just sitting ready for us to add all of our information to. Now, I still don't like this up here because, again, we have a lot of blank space. So an easy way to kind of fix this is maybe we want to put our contact information over on the right side of the page. Again, that would require us to insert another text box. So I am going to do that. I'm just going to insert another table here. I'm going to put this information in this side and this information in this side. And I want to push this all the way to the right-hand side. So I can just copy it, hit the align and indent button, and then smush it to the right. And that's looking really, really good. I'm going to see if it does have space before. So I'm going to remove that space before as well, just to kind of make it as nice and neat and squishy as possible. Again, table properties, the color, I'm going to change that to white so that it blends in seamlessly. I'm going to get rid of these extra spaces here, and everything is looking really nice and neat. And I do have this giant space. Okay, this is good for me to show. I've got this giant space above that table I just inserted, and that's from where this your name was. So there's unfortunately no way to delete that, but what you can do is you can just change the font size to be super small. So I usually just change it to 1, and then it is basically like it's not there and it doesn't exist. Oh my gosh, look at how beautiful this is looking. It's looking so much better, so much cleaner. I'm not liking how close skills is to this top portion here, so I'm just going to actually jump that down. And that was a big jump because there's actually a lot of stuff happening here. So I'm going to remove space before and after paragraph just to kind of get that a little squishier. All right, so now this is looking like a really good format. And this is kind of what you want yours to look like, not a lot of blank space. Everything's really organized. It's easy to see all of the titles of kind of what you're looking at when you're looking at a resume. Now is adding the information. So I'm going to pretend for this part like I am a high school student because if I'm a high school student, I probably don't have a lot of experience. So instead of experience and like job work and stuff, I am maybe going to instead put clubs and organizations. Okay, so I want to highlight my involvement at school. And then I can kind of start filling in some of this. Now, since I changed this to clubs and organizations, some of this information isn't going to be relevant. But let's say, like, you probably don't need to do location because they're going to assume it was probably at your high school that you're involved in all of these things. But maybe I am, on the debate team. Okay, and maybe for 1 year on the debate team, I was like a team leader. So I can put that as my job title. If I don't have a job title, maybe I don't have to put anything. You can put the dates that you were doing this. It's probably a really good idea to do that. So maybe I was debating from, the beginning of the school year. So that would be August, maybe August 2022, up until it could be the present if I'm still doing it and I'm still in high school, or whatever date that you ended it. Now here, what do we put as some of the bullet points for when we're writing our resume? Okay, the key here is you want to highlight what skills you took away from that experience as the debate team leader that you could apply in the job that you're submitting this resume for. So, maybe I'm submitting this resume to, work at like an ice cream parlor or something like that. Well, from the debate team, I learned how to be a leader. Maybe I was in charge of like organizing the schedule for the debate team. I was probably giving feedback to my teammates and helping coach them on their debates. These are all skills that employers want to see in the people that they hire. So you want to use catching adjectives when you are kind of describing the roles that you did. So maybe for my first bullet point, I would say organized, and do not write incomplete sentences. That is key on a resume. We want short, that like just a snapshot of kind of what you did. So organized schedules for practices. Organized schedule for team practices, right? Because we're working on a team here. We've got to highlight those key words. And then maybe another thing that I can add as the debate team is, provided feedback to teammates. Okay, stuff that's easy like that. Try to do at least 2 bullet points, if not 3, for every club and organization or every item experience that you put down. Some things to think about when you're figuring out, okay, well, what do I actually want to include on my resume? Any club or organization that you had a leadership role in, particularly, you want to highlight. So you want to kind of put towards the top. If you did volunteer work, You want to put the volunteer work on your resume because that would go really well under like experience. That would be good for an experience category. If you had a job, 100% put that on there, especially if it's relevant to what you're applying for. If you've won any awards, this is another thing that you're going to want to highlight. So you should be kind of keeping track of your awards as you progress through high school. Like, let's say maybe you submitted a piece of writing to a writing competition and you won like an honorable mention. Put that on here. You're going to want to list the name of the award. So I'll just do an example here. Maybe Scholastic Writing Award winner, and then maybe I got an honorable mention, right? And then maybe I want to change it so that it looks like this. So I go and I make this, like a 12-point font, I bold it, and then maybe I'll, italicize that. So you can make it look a little bit nicer just by playing around with some of those small formatting things. Again, we don't want it to be obnoxious. We just want it to look nice. And you would probably want to add the date that you won the award as well. So I'm actually going to just steal the formatting here of this. Got to remove that spacing before the paragraph and make it squishy. So maybe I won that, in February of 2019. I don't know. Okay. So awards, definitely, especially if you won like academic awards, listing your GPA under education is going to be really helpful. If you have a good GPA, you want to list that under education. So for education, you do want to list your high school. So, we're at O'Gorman, so I'll list O'Gorman High School, location, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Please put a parenthesis between the city and the state. Degree, high school diploma. And then if you haven't graduated yet, you would put the month and the year that you started, and then you would say expected graduation, and then have the month and the year that you're expected to graduate. You probably wouldn't need any other details to that unless you want to put like your GPA. Your GPA would probably be a good thing, or if you've won like an honor like a dean's list or something like that, then you could add that as well. All right, so those are kind of the basics. Let me see if I forgot anything. References. I did almost forget that. So you can add references to your resume if you want to. That is also something that you could include in a cover letter. You could just have a line that says, please reach out about references. But if you want to put references on your resume, because you can see I kind of do have some empty space down here. So maybe I want to fill that with, 1 or 2. I would say no more than 3 references on a resume. You just want to do the basics. So all that you would want to do, I'll just copy and kind of paste this and show you. All that you would want to do for references is you would want to put the person's name. So like, I'll pretend I'm using my boss, I'm not going to put her full name. You would want to put their full name. Okay. I'll just put JM for now. And then you would want to list like how long you've known the person. So, and in what capacity. So, boss or supervisor for 6 years. And then you could put their contact information. So you could put their phone number if you wanted to. Always make sure you ask permission before you give out their contact information. So phone number, or you could put their email, whatever it is. Okay. Something like that. So that would be all that you do for references, is just name, how long you've known them and in what capacity, and then their quick contact information. And again, no more than 3. The last thing that I'm going to say before I end this video, do not have any errors on your resume. This is an automatic, surefire way to get you into the no pile. If your resume is riddled with spelling errors, no employer is going to want to hire you. You're just going to go automatically into the no pile. Okay, so make sure you are double and triple checking your spelling, your grammar. Make sure you're using really strong, adjectives to describe each of your leadership roles, each of your, everything on your resume. You just want to make it as great as you can. Remember, this is the first impression that you are making on a potential employer. You want your first impression to be memorable, but not memorable in a negative way, like not with colors and, images on your resume. Not like that, not memorable like that, but memorable because your resume was so professional. They're like, wow, how can a 16, 17, 18-year-old put together such a professional resume? It's amazing. All right, so that's the basics. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I am here. Leave a comment below. And if you haven't subscribed, please do that. I would very much appreciate it. Have a good one. See you next time.